Masechet Baba Kama Daf Peh Bet. We just saw 10 conditions that Yoshua made when he entered the land with all of the tribes for the benefit of the settlement of the land. Since we're talking about 10 and enactments, now we have another list of 10 enactments that Ezra HaSofer made when he came from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael to resettle the land of Israel at the beginning of the second Bet HaMikdash. Asara takanot tiken Ezra, שקוראים במנחה בשבת, וקוראים בשני בחמישי, ודנין בשני ובחמישי, ומכבסין בחמישי ובשבת, ואוכלים שום בערב שבת, ושתהא אישה משכמת ועופה, ושתהא אישה חוגרת בסינה, ושתהא אישה חופפת וטובלת, ושיהיו אוכלים מחזירין בעיירות, ותיקן טבילה לבעלי Kiryan. First we have the list, and then we're going to explain each of the items. Number one, that we should take out and read Sefer Torah on Shabbat afternoon during Mincha, and also that we read Sefer Torah on Monday and on Thursday, as we do till today. And that courts should convene on Mondays and Thursdays for people to come in the cities and villages, and that people should do the laundry on Thursday. It's a good day to do it so that one will have nice, fresh, clean clothes for Shabbat, better than Friday, because Friday there's other things to worry about and to prepare. And furthermore, that one should eat garlic on Erev Shabbat. We'll see why. And that a woman who decides to bake should do so early in the morning. Doesn't mean that she has to wake up every morning, but on the morning that she wants to bake, she should do so early in the morning, so that when poor people come, she will be able to share with them. And that a woman should wear a breechcloth, some kind of undergarment or apron for modesty purposes, and that a woman should scrub before, or either scrub or comb her hair before she immerses, so that there will not be any chatzitza, any separation between either her skin and the water, or her hair shouldn't be knotted or have dirt, so that when she does tevilah, it's a kosher tevilah, and that there should be traveling salesmen going around to different cities selling cosmetics and perfume, so that they will be readily available, so that women can keep themselves beautiful for their husbands. And furthermore, that a man who has an emission should go to the mikveh. Okay, let's explain them. We instituted that we should read Torah on Shabbat afternoon for those who are the idlers on the corners. People have nothing to do, they're just sitting idly. Either it's referring to that they're idle on Shabbat afternoon, doing nothing. So we say, you know what, we're going to have Sefer Torah. That way people will come back and they'll stay, and they'll come early or stay for shiur of Torah, and that'll be more encouragement than just sitting on the corner doing nothing. Or maybe people who don't get to come to Bet Knesset during the week, so that they can hear that the weekday portion, at least on Shabbat afternoon, even if they can't hear it on Monday and Thursday. וישו קוראים בשני בחמישי, אז ראתי כן, והמקרא הבא מתקנה דתניא, והלכו 3 ימים במדבר ולא מצאו מים. תור של שמות אמרו, אין מים אלא תורה, שנאמר, הוי כל צמא, לכו למים. Oh yes, is it Ezra HaSofer? He came to Eretz Yisrael around the year 450 BCE. Is he the one that instituted reading Sefer Torah on Monday and Thursday? But was it not instituted way back from the beginning, from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu? As the pasuk says, that Bnei Israel went 3 days in the desert and they could not find water, and they were complaining. Now, if you read it literally, it means they were thirsty actually for water. However, those who interpret the Torah allegorically, there was a whole school of darshanim that found deeper allegorical, metaphorical explanations of Pisukim. They said water here is not literally water, but rather Torah. As it says, all those who are thirsty go to water. And there it's talking about wisdom, knowledge. So the problem is that the Bnei Israel went for 3 days without water, and then they were lacking and thirsty for spiritual nourishment. Therefore, they should not know. There should never be 3 days that one goes without learning Torah. כיוון שהלכו שלוש ימים בלא תורה, נלאו, עמדו נביאים שביניהם תקנו להם שקוראים בשבת מפסיקין באחד בשבת, וקוראים בשני מפסיקין שלישי ורביעי, וקוראים בחמישי מפסיקין ערב שבת, כדי שלא ילינו שלושה ימים בלא Torah. The Beraita continues and says, because Bnei Israel went for 3 days without learning Torah, this is a public institution of learning Torah that everybody will come to, so they became weary, spiritually weary. And so the Nevi'im that were there, Moshe was there too, and other Nevi'im, they got together and instituted that. Jewish communities for all time, no matter where they are, should read Torah on Shabbat, and then they can take a break on Sunday. They'll read on Monday, they take a break on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then they read on Thursday, they take a break on Friday, so that there will never be a span of 3 days or more without learning Torah. We see that, so the Monday and Thursday readings were already instituted way before Ezra HaSofer. So why is it on this list of things that Ezra did? Meikara tiknu chad gabra telata pesuke, iname telata gabre telata pesuke, keneged kohanim levim v'Yisraelim, matahu tiken telata gabre v'asara pesuke, keneged asara batlanin. The original takana from the time of Moshe and the Nevi'im back then was only that one person would read 3 pesukim, the bare minimum, or alternatively, that there would be 3 people, each one reads 1 pasuk for a total of 3 pesukim. So at that time they said, okay, just very, very minimal. Hopefully people will learn more, obviously, but you can't go 3 days without any water, without any Torah at all. So at that time they did only 3 pesukim, and the 3 pesukim corresponded to Kohanim, Leviim, Yisraelim, meaning we're including everybody in the nation or representing them, and they're all covered. But then Ezra came and he said, you know what, we should have 3 people, at least on weekdays, 3 people reading at least 10 Pesukim, and this will correspond to the 10 idlers, the 10 people who take care of communal affairs, they take care of the synagogue, maybe the charity, they study Torah, they make the minyanim. Most people have to go to the farm, go to work, and so these people are in charge of the communal affairs and don't work. And so to correspond to them, to give them honor, we say we're going to read 10 Pesukim on Monday and Thursday. So Ezra didn't begin the institution, but he expanded it from 3 Pesukim to 10. Why does the Bet Din convene on Monday and Thursday? Because that's when lots of people are there, because they come to read Sefer Torah. See, so mitzvah goreret mitzvah. Once they're coming to learn Torah on Monday and Thursday, then also the learned people will be there and the populace will be there to make up the Bet Din and to come to judgment if they need. You should do the laundry on Thursday so that everything will be nice and ready on Friday for the honor of Shabbat. V'shu ochlin shum be'erev Shabbat mishum ona dichtiv asher period yiten be'ito. V'amar Rabbi Yehuda v'item Rav Nachman v'item Rav Kahana v'item Rabbi Yochanan ze mishamesh mitato me'erev Shabbat la'erev Shabbat. So Ezra instituted that one should eat garlic on Erev Shabbat, so that it will get people more in the mood, and then the husbands and wives will be together on Friday nights. That's mitzvah night. As it says in Mizmor Aleph, talking about Tzaddikim compared to trees that are planted by streams and they bring forth their fruit at the right time, in the right season. So what does that mean? It is a metaphor that the Tzaddikim are like trees. So what does that mean? What's the right time, and what's the bringing forth fruit? So Rav Yehuda, and some say Rav Nachman, and some say Rav Kana, and some say Rabbi Yochanan, maybe they all said it, is that this is one who uses the bed, who fulfills the mitzvah of Onah and is with his wife every Friday night. And thereby they will have children and grow their families, and that is a great mitzvah. So therefore, to increase that and get the couples in the mood, one should eat garlic. Tenor banan, chamisha devim nemru beshum, masbiya umashchin umasil panim marbe hazera vehoreg kinim shebebnei ma'ayim v'yeshomrim machnis haba umosi et hakin'ah. So since we're on the subject of garlic, garlic is very beneficial for lots of things. 5 matters. Number 1, it satisfies one's hunger. It warms the belly. It causes one's face to shine. It increases seed in men, and it kills lice and intestines. It's probably referring to worms. In fact, there seems to be some medical evidence, according to this note here, that garlic is good for killing intestinal worms. And others say that it instills love and it removes jealousy. So these are all good. The last one also will be good for shalom bayit and raising nice children. That when a woman decides that today is baking day, don't do it in the afternoon, do it early in the morning, and then the poor people will smell the fresh bread and they'll be able to get their breakfast and their meals for the day or even the next few days. That woman should wear these breeches or undergarment, or some say some type of apron, for the sake of modesty. So that women should comb their hair or scrub and only then go to the mikveh, so that there will not be a chatzitza, separation between the water and any part of their body. We ask, Ezra instituted this. This is a deoraita law. Detanya v'rachaset besaro b'mayim shuli davar choses ben besaro lamayim et besaro tatafel b'saro ma'inihu se'ar. The Braita quotes a pasuk that a person has to wash his flesh in water. Anyone who needs to go to the mikveh, the flesh has to be touching the water directly, and there cannot be any interposition between one's skin and the water. So obviously, you have to scrub and wash any, just in cases, any dirt or scabs or anything that will be an interposition. And the word et besaro comes to include not just flesh, but et besaro comes to include that which is subordinate to one's flesh and one's skin, and that includes hair. And that's therefore chofefet is specifically about scrubbing and combing one's hair so that there's no dirt or interpositions in one's hair. So all that is included in the derivation of the Torah that we already know. So what is Ezra adding that's new? So the answer is, from a deoraita level, it would be sufficient for a woman to look at her hair, just to check it to make sure there's no knots. That would be a chatzitza, or that there's some dirt that is disgusting that is there, and that would be a chatzitza. So it's enough to just to check it out and see, and if you don't see anything wrong, then she could just go and dunk. Ezra came and said an obligation of everyone should comb their hair. Others say refers to scrubbing. So even if you don't see any knots or any particular dirt, nevertheless everybody should scrub and comb just to make sure. That there should be peddlers that are going through all the towns selling cosmetics and perfume, so that women should not become unattractive to their husbands. That a man who sees an emission should go to the mikveh. That's a Torah law. As it says, any man who has an emission should wash his body in water. So that causes Baal Keri, that is Tameh. And so if he wants to be Tahor, he has to go to the mikveh. What is Ezra adding? From a Torah level, only if someone needs to be ritually pure because he's a Kohen and wants to eat terumah, or anyone who wants to eat sacrificial meat, then you have to be in a tahor state. If you want to come to the Bet HaMikdash, you have to be in a tahor state in order to do that. But otherwise, if you're just home and you're not eating terumah or kodashim, there's no need to be in a tahor state. Nowadays, everybody is tameh. In the time of the Bet HaMikdash, and even afterwards, there were people that wanted to be tahor, to be on a higher level of purity and spirituality. So they would have everything, all their food, they would try to eat always when they are tahor. We have a remnant of that today, that we wash our hands before eating bread. Same reason. So really, you only have to go to the mikveh after becoming a Baal Keri if you need to be ritually pure to eat pure food, but not otherwise. So Ezra came and said, also to study Torah, and therefore men, anytime they were with their wives, they would have to go and go to the mikveh before they came to study Torah. This was a very difficult gezerah to accomplish, and eventually the Gemara in Berachot 22a says that it was canceled, perhaps because people could not follow it, and therefore this is not followed anymore today. Asara devarim ne'emru b'Yerushalayim. Continuing our lists of 10, there are 10 special laws that have to do with the city of Yerushalayim. En abayit halut ba. A house does not get sold permanently, right? The assets are not frozen, whereas usually in a walled city, the Torah says, if someone sells it, the seller has a right to buy it back within 1 year. After a year, that's it. The buyer keeps it permanently, but there are no permanent sales in Yerushalayim. Even after 1 year, the seller can buy it back. If there's a murder mystery in Yerushalayim, we do not do the usual ritual of breaking the neck of the heifer. Well, the Gemara will explain all these why. If there's a lot of idolatry in the city, other cities, you go and destroy the city. But Yerushalayim, even if it would be full of idolatry, does not get destroyed. There's no nega of a bayit, this leprous or some kind of fungus that spreads on houses. That applies other places, but houses in Yerushalayim do not get deemed impure. One may not build projections and balconies in Yerushalayim. Gemara will explain why. You can't make garbage heaps in Jerusalem. You also cannot make kilns, ovens in Yerushalayim. One cannot add more gardens or orchards in Yerushalayim. In addition to the rose gardens that were already there from before, those are grandfathered in, but no new gardens or orchards. You cannot raise chickens in Yerushalayim, and if someone dies in Yerushalayim, we take the body out. We do not leave it overnight in the city. Okay, let's explain them. En habayit halut badichtiv v'kam habayit asher lo chomal lesmitut lakone oto ledorotav v'kasaba lo nithal leka Yerushalayim lishvatim. Regarding most cities that are out in the various tribal lands of Israel, and among the Shevatim, it says that if it's in a walled city, so after 1 year, the house becomes a permanent sale to the buyer for generations. However, Yerushalayim is different because it was not apportioned to any one tribe. So if it's apportioned to one tribe, there can be a permanent sale. But if it's not apportioned to one tribe, it's kind of like a common ownership. Yerushalayim is split up, is shared among everyone. So therefore, since it's not permanently given to one tribe, also one cannot permanently sell it. The seller always has a right to buy it back. The pasuk about Egla Arufa says that if you find the body and you don't know who the murderer is, so then the closest city has to come and do the whole ritual. But it says on the land that Hashem has given you as an inheritance. But Yerushalayim was not apportioned to any of the tribes specifically as an inheritance, and therefore this law cannot apply there. And also regarding an idolatrous city, it says if you should find one of your cities where the idolatry has spread, but it says your cities, but Yerushalayim is not one of your cities in particular because it's shared by all the Shevatim. And regarding leprosy of the house, it says, if there Hashem will bring this sara'at in a house of your inherited property, but Yerushalayim is not a portion to any one tribe, and therefore it cannot be called your possession. The your is not, we're understanding it not to be Bnei Israel in general, but your meaning for each shevet. ואין מוסיעין בעזיזין וגוסרות מפני אוהל הטומאה משום דלא להתחזקו עולה לרגלים. When you're building your homes and buildings in Jerusalem, you're not allowed to build projections and balconies for two reasons. Number one, that it will create an ohel, a tent, and if there is any corpse impurity underneath, even buried down, then someone who walks under that balcony will become tameh through tent impurity. And so in Yerushalayim, there's lots of Kohanim and lots of other people that are coming there and want to be tahor and are eating kodashim and lots of meat that is kodesh. And so in order to make sure that tum'ah, even if we don't see it, will not spread, so we don't want any overhangs and balconies. Also, you don't want anything sticking out into the pathways, because during holiday season lots of pilgrims come and they fill the streets, and then if you have all kinds of projectiles and people bumping out their homes, then they won't have room to walk. No garbage dumps in Jerusalem, because garbage dumps will bring rats and creepy crawlies, and then any of the shikatzim, when they die, they cause impurity. There are different shirasim, and we don't want to have impurity in the city of Jerusalem where people are eating kodashim. And no big ovens in Jerusalem because they make smoke, and then it's going to be all smoggy in Yerushalayim, and we want it to be beautiful. Now gardens and orchards, although they are beautiful in themselves, but to keep them up you have to bring fertilizer that smells, and so we don't want the bad smell in Yerushalayim. Mishum kodashim, no chickens, as we saw earlier, because chickens go and peck in the garbage, and then they take this stuff from the garbage that is tameh, and they spread it around, and then that will spread tum'ah even to kodashim. And the fact that you cannot have a corpse stay in Jerusalem overnight is a tradition, although it's not so hard to figure out some explanation. We saw so many of these things were because of tum'ah, and a corpse is avi avot hatum'ah and will cause tent impurity in any house that it's in. And so for the sanctity of Yerushalayim, we take even if the bodies are not yet ready to be buried, we do not leave them in Yerushalayim overnight. We next go all the way back to the Mishnah that said, "En megadelin chazirin bechol makom," one is not allowed to raise pigs in any place. Now we have a story about pigs. Teno Rabbanan keshesaru bet chashmonai ze al ze hayahur kenos mibifnim ve'aristobulos mibachutz ubechol yom hayu meshalashim lahem bekupa dinarin vehayu ma'alin lahem temidin. This is a very important historical story about the Hasmoneans, that one besieged the other. We're talking about the two sons of Shalom Sion Hamalka, Salome Alexandra. She was known to be a very righteous queen. She was the only regnant queen that we had during the second Bet HaMikdash period, and there's a street named after her right off of David's citadel in Yerushalayim nowadays. She followed the Pharisees and was beloved, and there was peace during her time. While she was the queen, she obviously could not also serve as Kohen Gadol, unlike most of the Chashmonaim, who were men who were both the king and were Kohen Gadol, which is a separate problem that they combined the kingship with Keuna Gedolah. But anyway, all the people before her were both. So she was queen, and she appointed her older son, Hyrcanus. That's Hyrcanus II. There's a lot of people named Hyrcanus. Anyway, this is Salome Alexandra's son. Hyrcanus was the Kohen Gadol while she was alive. After she died, so Hyrcanus, as being the oldest, would be expected to be the next, not only Kohen Gadol, but also the next king. However, there was a younger brother named Aristobulus, and Aristobulus, he was stronger and bigger personality than Hyrcanus, who was more shy. And Aristobulus said, I want to be the king, I want to be Kohen Gadol. And so he came with an army and kicked Hyrcanus out, and he established himself as the ruler. But Hyrcanus did not stop trying, and Hyrcanus came back and tried to fight back against Aristobulus. So that's the context of the siege here. Now, in this version of the story, it says that Hyrcanus was inside and Aristobulus was inside the walls of Jerusalem, and they besieged themselves inside, and Aristobulus and his army was outside. However, historically, it was the reverse, and in fact, there are other versions of this, and here's one in Masechet Sotah, where it says the same story, but here, Haya Hyrcanus mibachutz v'Aristobulus mibifnim. So Hyrcanus is the one outside, and Aristobulus is the one inside. So we have two gemariot that are against each other, and we can decide, Ad she'yavo hakatuv hashelishi v'yachriya benehem, Josephus, who was much closer to the time and place, and as other historical records tells us the story in more detail, and it's worth reading. So it says, when the Kohanim and Aristobulus were besieged, so they were inside, they already went in and had kicked out Hyrcanus, and he made himself Kohen Gadol. And so it happened during Pesach. That came, and it was our custom to have a lot of korbanot. But those that were with Aristobulus wanted sacrifices and desired that the countrymen would furnish them with such sacrifices. So Aristobulus was inside, and there's a siege, and they're besieged in Jerusalem. And now within the old city, walls of Jerusalem, there's not a lot of room to graze animals. So there's very few sheep and goats inside. So they rely on the people outside, the farms, to bring sacrifices. But the people outside are the enemies, are Hyrcanus and his group. And so are they going to be able to cooperate? So they tried to cooperate and assured them they should have as much money for them as they should desire. So Aristobulus inside said, we'll pay any amount, right? Because we just want to continue the sacrifices, especially as Pesach is coming up. And actually every day we have to bring the sacrifices. And when they require them to pay 1,000 drachma for every head of cattle, a huge number, 1,000, Aristobulus and the Kohanim willingly undertook to pay for them accordingly. So, well, we got to do it, right? This is the avodah. We have to keep it going. And those who within let down the money over the walls and gave it to them, right? So the people inside put the money in a basket and lowered it down the wall. But when the people outside had received it, they did not deliver the sacrifices, but arrived at the height of wickedness to break the promises that they had given and be guilty of impiety towards God by not furnishing those that wanted them with sacrifices. So, it's one thing to be at war with each other, a civil war, which is really, really bad. This civil war was the end of the Hasmonean dynasty. Each of the sides called in help from the Romans, and the Romans were happy to come, and that's it. That was the end of political independence and sovereignty. So this civil war was really terrible. But to add insult to injury, they also couldn't get along and cooperate to keep the korbanot, even the korban tamid, going. And so the people outside did not keep their promise. And when the Kohanim found that they had been cheated and the agreements they had made were violated, they prayed to Hashem that he should avenge them on their countrymen. Nor did God delay their punishment, but sent a strong storm of wind that destroyed the fruits of the whole country till a little bit of wheat was bought for 11 drachma. So a terrible ending to this tragic story. Anyway, we see that, in fact, both in Masechet Sotah and in Josephus, it's Aristobulus that is inside. So back to this version of the story. And this says similar to Josephus, with some slight differences. Every day, the people inside would lower money down in a basket, and the people outside would send sheep up. So according to this version, they were cooperating, in fact, for some time, and so at least they got the Korban Tamid, in the morning and afternoon, they got 2 animals in, and they were able to keep the regular service going. However, Hayasham Zaken Echad Shemakir Bechochmat Yevanit, Amar Lehem Kol Zman Sheoskin Ba'avoda, En Nimsarin Beyedchem, Lemachar Shilshelu Dinarim Bekupa, Vehelu Lahem Hazir, Kevan Sheyegia Lechasir Choma, Na'as Sipona Bachoma, Venizda Ze'a Eretz Yisrael, 400 Parsa al 400 Parsa. There was a certain elder there who knew Greek wisdom. What is Greek wisdom referring to? You note that in the Talmud Yerushalmi, it talks about Greek, and one allowed to teach his son or daughter Greek. But here, this story is in the Bavli. The Talmud Bavli talks about Chochmat Yevanit, the wisdom of Greek, because in Bavel they didn't teach Greek language, but those who were more Hellenized would teach Greek wisdom. They might do it in other languages. So this is about Greek culture, maybe learning Homer, or like in the gymnasium, sports, or other aspects of Greek entertainment and knowledge, philosophy, science, whatever it is, can all be classified under Chochmat Yevanit. Now, in this case, this elder who was familiar with Greek wisdom told the army outside that as long as the people inside are continuing the Bet HaMikdash service, they will not be delivered into your hands. In other words, you guys outside, you're providing sheep every day to the people inside, and by providing that sheep, you're giving them ultimate protection, because the Bet HaMikdash and its holiness and its continued service are protecting the walls and everyone inside. So you won't be able to win until you stop doing so. So this Greek this elder here is giving them really information that will end up causing the stopping of the Bet HaMikdash service and the destruction of Jerusalem and this whole civil war that ensued and the terrible punishment that comes after. So this elder is really not a good guy. Now, why is it important that he's familiar with Greek wisdom? What does the Greek wisdom have to do with his knowledge? I mean, if anything, he knows that the Bet HaMikdash is important and offers protection. Why does he have to know that? But he doesn't learn that from Greek wisdom. He can know that just from Jewish wisdom. So what is this Chochmat Yevanit? There's 2 possibilities. One is that because he was Hellenized, he is assimilated, so he doesn't care about the Bet HaMikdash, he doesn't care about the Jewish people very much, and so he's happy to see that even though he's Jewish himself, he is happy to see the Jews be destroyed. It doesn't actually say he's Jewish, but it seems that he is, because he sounds like he's a Jew, he's an elder, but he knows Chochmat Yevanit, so maybe he's a traitor to the Jews, and that's because he's more aligned with the Greeks. This is outside influence, and so therefore he gave them this terrible advice. I mean, it was advice that worked, but it was harmful to the nation. That's one possibility. And because of this, afterwards, the rabbi said one is not allowed to teach his son Greek because, right, it just leads people into to being more accustomed and assimilating. That's all one. Second possibility is that Chochmat Yevanit refers specifically to, in this case at least, to pantomime. This is part of Greek theater. These theaters were very large, and they did not have sound systems and microphones, so actors would have to act out what they were doing, so that even people far away, even if they couldn't hear every word, would be able to see visually. And that's ended up with miming, which was very important and popular during Roman times, where, like today, they were silent and they would have to act everything out, and you could tell what they were doing. So if this elder was inside the walls of Jerusalem and he wanted to get a message outside without drawing too much attention and shouting over the wall, hey, stop bringing sacrifices, then they would have killed him inside. So instead, he can use this knowledge of pantomime or some kind of secret code that only certain people would know outside. And so he used Chochmat Yevanit in order to get this message from inside to outside the wall. Okay, in any case, he delivers this message and they get it, And on the next day, when the people inside lowered down the money, the people outside, instead of putting a sheep, they put a pig into the basket. And as the people inside are holding it up, it got halfway up, and the pig stuck its nails or hooves into the wall, and Eretz Yisrael had an earthquake that reached 400 parsangs by 400 parsangs. But this may refer to a storm, right? Josephus said that immediately when this happened, the Kohanim inside prayed that there should be destruction to the people outside, and then there was a storm, and so this could be referring to a wind and storm and earthquake. That is parallel in Josephus. And the result of this storm is Be'ota she'amru arur ha'ish she'yegadel chazirim ve'arur ha'adam she'yelamed et beno chochmat yevanit ve'alota she'ashaninu ma'aseh sheba omer miginot ha'serifin u'shtei alechem mebik'at en socher. At that time, the sages said, "Cursed is anyone who raises pigs," because a pig was involved in this terrible incident. So you know what? Why do you even have a pig here? Are you eating it? Are you selling it? All that's prohibited anyway. So that shows something negative, and a pig was involved in this story. So they said, not only is it not permitted, that we knew before, but now there's even a curse against anyone who raises pigs, and also cursed is anyone who teaches his son Greek wisdom. Because Greek wisdom was used in this case either to deliver the message or because it influenced at least this guy to assimilate and look out for the destruction of Yerushalayim. And so they put a ban and cursed anyone who would teach his son here Greek wisdom. Again, in the Bavli it's Greek wisdom, because in Persia they weren't speaking Greek anyway. In the Mishnah and Talmud Yerushalmi it's actually Greek, meaning Greek language, although with Greek language comes reading things in Greek, which would be associated with Greek culture and knowledge. Okay, because at that incident we learned that as a result of this terrible storm that came and plague, so the crops were destroyed, that in order to bring the omer, just an omer the size of a measurement of barley, for on the beginning of Pesach, they had to go so far away, all the way to the gardens of Sirifin. And when they had to bring the wheat for the 2 loaves on Shavuot, they had to go all the way to the valley of En Socher, which also is far away because all the farms and the produce everywhere and near Jerusalem were destroyed, and that's how bad the destruction was. So very important and instructive story. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen ve'amen.